Nothing happened to me. I'll say that first. There's no night in this, and nobody ever said a word to me. What there is 4 hours at a kitchen table on a wet Sunday in October, a laptop, and 1,400 photographs of a very nice summer. And 3 of them. By the time I sat down at that table, it had been finished for 8 weeks. And that's the bit I've never got comfortable with, that it was already over and I didn't know. My mother turned 70 in the November. She's not a woman you can buy anything for. It goes in a drawer. So my sister had the idea of a photo book. 40 pictures, a year of the family, done by Christmas. And because I'm the one who takes the photographs, the job came to me. So on the first horrible Sunday of the autumn, with the rain coming sideways at the window, I put everything I'd shot since May onto the laptop and started going through it in order. 1,411 photographs. I still know the number. And what you notice is how little of a summer there actually is. The same 4 things over and over. The dog, the garden, my wife squinting because I've told her to stand in the sun. 11 pictures of one morning at a market, and they were all the same picture. And the whole time, I was looking at the middle of the frame. That's all anyone does. The one that started it was from the end of July. A leaving due at my work, and somebody had taken a photo of 4 of us in the car park with our coats over our arms. It was going in the book. But there was too much sky in it, so I pulled it into the crop tool. And as the frame came down, a man came into the right-hand side of it, half in and half out of my photograph. 3/4 turned away, out of focus, nothing about him at all. So I moved the crop 2 inches left so he wasn't in it, and went on to the next one. It caught up with me about 10 minutes later, because I'd already done that once. Not the cropping, the annoyance of somebody standing in the back of a picture you want. I'd had it earlier that afternoon, about a different day, so I went back and found it. 11th of July, a farmer's market 4 miles up the road. My wife holding up a jar of something and laughing at me. And behind her, past the corner of a stall, a man, 3/4 turned away, out of focus, about the same distance back. I put them side by side on the screen and did the sensible thing and called my wife in. She looked at it for 4 seconds and said, "That's a man." And she was right. 2 blurred half profiles, 20 days apart, in a town with 40,000 people in it. Same sort of build, weight on the back foot and one shoulder down, which is how 1/3 of all men stand when they're waiting. Genuinely, there is nothing there. She went back to the telly. I closed the laptop and felt a bit stupid. And that lasted 2 days. On the Tuesday night, I opened it again to prove myself wrong. And I did it properly. All 1,411 in order, and I did not look at the middle of one of them. I looked at the edges, every edge, every doorway behind a head, every bit of blur past a shoulder. It took me 2 nights. And here I'm going to count because counting kept my head level. He is not in all my photographs. He's not in most of them. He is in 3. Nothing before the 11th of July, nothing after the 22nd of August. 3. The third one is the 22nd of August. We'd had people round. 15 adults, a barbecue, everyone bringing a bowl of something. Somebody had taken a wide shot of the table with the food on it, and at the left edge of that photograph, the side gate is open, and a man is holding it, standing back, arm out, hand on the top rail, while 2 people carry dishes through. And in that one, he's close, and he's lit, turned 3/4 away, weight on the back foot, and one shoulder down. I sent it round to everybody who'd been there. Nobody knew him, but 2 people remembered him. One thought he was somebody's brother-in-law. The other had said thanks to him at that gate and had 2 seconds of thinking he was fine. Nobody saw him arrive. Nobody saw him leave. He is not in a single other photograph from that day, and there were 90. That one frame is at 12 minutes past 3, and everything I will ever know about the man standing inside my gate, I know because a shutter happened to be open for 2/100ths of a second. And then I wrote the 3 dates down in a row. 11th of July, a market 4 miles from my house on a Saturday morning in a crowd. 31st of July, the car park behind the building where I work. Which isn't somewhere you come across a person. It's somewhere you go if you already know where he works. 22nd of August, my garden, inside my gate, with his hand on it. 3 photographs, 6 weeks, and they only go in one direction. And then you start putting yourself back into it. Because I know what I did on the 22nd of August. At about 11:30, when everyone had gone and my wife had fallen asleep on the sofa, I carried 4 bin bags down the side of the house in the dark with the music still going in the kitchen behind me. The side gate had been propped open all day, and it wasn't propped open when I got there. It had swung to the way it does, and I stood there with my hands full, having a small opinion about a hinge. I took it to the police, printed them, wrote the dates on the back, sat in a little room with a very decent young officer who asked sensible questions. Can you see his face? No. Was he asked to leave your property at any point? He was holding the gate open for my guests. Standing at a market isn't an offense. Neither is standing in a car park. And nobody at that barbecue could say he wasn't invited. And at the end, he asked what I'd like him to do with it. He genuinely wanted to know. And I sat there with my 3 bits of paper and didn't have an answer for him. I finished the book, sat down a fortnight later and did it because my sister had already paid for it. 2 of the 3 are in it. The market one because it's the best photograph I took all year. The garden one because it's got everybody in it. And I cropped them, both, carefully, so that he isn't there. That book has been on my mother's coffee table for years now. She gets it out for people. And everyone who's turned those pages has been shown a lovely summer with a man taken out of the edges of it. By me, with a mouse. I'm not frightened of my own street. I didn't move. I didn't put cameras up. Nothing ever happened. And most days it sits quietly, like a stone in a coat pocket. What I do now is small enough to be embarrassing. When I take a photograph of the people I love, and I take more of them now, not fewer, I take a second one straight after, wider, the room, the street, whatever's behind us. I never look at them. I just take them. Because for a whole summer I pointed a camera at 4 people I love, and the only thing that ever caught him was the part of the picture I wasn't interested in. So now I keep that part too. It cost me about a second, and I hope it stays the most boring habit I've got. I saw him for 40 seconds once on a phone screen at 10 past 4 in the morning. That's the whole of my contact with him 4 years ago. And that isn't what I think about. What I think about happened 2 days later in a room with a strip light and a table in it, and it lasted about 4 minutes, and I have never been allowed to see it again. I was living on my own then, in a small end terrace on an ordinary street. Bins out on a Tuesday, a man 3 doors down who'd take a parcel in for you. And I worked a shift pattern. 2 earlies, 2 lates, 2 nights, 4 off, round and round, and it slid every month. Which means I couldn't have told you what time my lights would be off on any given night without looking at the rota. At the time, I thought of it as the most boring fact about my life. The door camera wasn't even mine, really. My mom bought it for me one Christmas, and I felt daft putting it up. It buzzed my phone about 9 times a day. Post, next door's cat, a carrier bag going past in the wind. I got to the stage where I'd swipe it away before I'd properly woken up, which is how I watched the whole thing flat on my back in bed with one eye open, thinking it was the cat. It wasn't the cat. 10 past 4, and the picture on my phone was a man standing at my front door. And the first thing that was wrong with it was where he'd come from. He doesn't walk up the path. The clip starts with him already coming in from the left, along the gravel between my house and the fence, which isn't a route, it's a gap. You'd have to come off the pavement and down the side of the house to arrive there at all. And then he just stood there, facing the door, square on, hood up, hands down. He didn't knock, he didn't ring, he never once looked back over his shoulder. 40 seconds is a lot longer than you think when a man spends it standing still. And at about 30 of them, his hand comes up, and he puts it on the handle and moves it. Not a rattle, not a shove. The way you'd check whether a cupboard door swings shut on its own. Then he takes his hand back and steps out of frame, the way he came. I rang it in at about 20 past. They were good. A car within the hour, 2 officers, torches down the side of the house and over the back fence. Nothing. No marks, nothing tried, no footprints. It was July and the ground was like concrete. They took the clip and gave me a number. One of them said the sensible thing about the back door, and I stood in my hallway at 5:30 in a dressing gown, feeling like the person who'd made a fuss about a street where nothing happens. And I still wince at this bit, so I'll just say it. By that same evening, I'd started making it smaller. By the next day, it was a drunk at the wrong house. By the day after, I'd told one woman at work and she said, "Ooh, creepy," and we talked about something else. 40 seconds of a man doing nothing at all. I had a bad night's sleep and then a normal one, and I was already halfway to filing it under nothing when they rang me. It wasn't the crime number, a different department, and they were careful with me in a way that made my stomach go. Would I be able to come in this afternoon? And when I got there, the first thing they told me had nothing to do with my call. A car had been stopped the night before, 2 streets away, at about 12:30. Nothing dramatic, a light out at the back. And they'd looked in it, and there was nothing in it anybody could arrest a man for. And then he put it on the table. It was a document wallet, one of those cheap, clear plastic ones with a popper, 3 or 4 pounds in any stationers. And inside it there were dividers, 3 of them, tabbed with something in each. And he turned it so it was facing me, and he opened it at the middle one, and he laid a hand flat over the other 2, and left it there the whole time. The first thing in my section was a printout of the land registry page for my address. The public one. Anybody can pull it up for 3 pounds. My house in black lines on a white page, and where the boundary runs. The second thing was a leaflet, the bin collection schedule for my street, the one that comes through every door twice a year. And I asked what that was for. And he said, "Honestly, we don't know what that one's for. I've had 4 years and about 9 ideas since then, and I don't like any of them." The third thing was a photograph, printed matte, the size of a postcard. My front porch at night with the light on over the door. And it took me a few seconds to see what was wrong with it, because I'd never seen my own porch from that angle. It's taken from behind, from the far corner of my back garden, past the shed, from about 60 feet in, looking up the side of my own house at my own front door. He wasn't at the fence, he was inside it. And the light's on over the door in that picture, which means I was in. The last thing in my section was a page of handwriting. Small and even and level. The way somebody writes who's taking their time. Dates down the left, 11 of them over 7 weeks. And next to 9 of the dates, a time, 11:30, 1:45, 1:50, 2. The times my windows went dark. and my shifts moved. There was no pattern to learn, and 2 of the dates have a dash instead. I looked those 2 up. They're the 2 nights I was at my sister's. So he came, and there was nothing to write down, and he wrote that down as well. And that's the thing about that folder I never got out from under. Not the photograph, not the handwriting, how tidy it was. Nothing was crumpled. It was hole-punched and in order, and my house was section 2 of 3. I asked what the other 2 were. They couldn't tell me. I asked if they were as full as mine. Same answer. And then I asked the only question I wanted an answer to, whether the 3 of them were in any order or just how they'd come out of the car. And he was honest with me. There was no way to know. They let him go at about 11 the next morning. And when I got angry, they went through it line by line, and it's worse when it's explained. A public record printout isn't an offense. Neither is a bin leaflet or handwriting. The photograph is trespass, but there's no date on it, and you can't put a man in a garden on a night nobody can name. And the 40 seconds at my door is a hood with no face in it. He was in overnight for a light out and nothing else. I asked for a copy of my own section, just the page, and the answer was no. It was the right answer, properly explained, and I still think about it. I moved 8 months later, when the tenancy was up. And I'm all right. I still live on my own and still like it. What I changed isn't a lock or a camera. It's that I say the small, stupid thing out loud now. The same night to somebody official, even in a dressing gown, feeling like an idiot about a man who didn't do anything. And I very nearly talked myself out of it. Reporting it is why anybody ever put a folder on a table in front of me. Everything I know about that summer, I know because I made a fuss about nothing. So I make a fuss about nothing. It takes 10 minutes and it cost me my pride, and it's the only reason I ever got to see the rest of it. The camera on my front door costs 40 pounds, and the cheapest storage plan keeps 7 days. After that, it starts nagging you. Memory nearly full. So about once a week, with a coffee on a Sunday morning, I'd clear the lot off in one go. It was the most boring thing I did all week. And it still comes back most Sundays, how close I came to doing it that morning, with my thumb already moving. I live on my own, in a small house at the end of a row, and the thing I liked most about it was the front door. It's set back, a shallow alcove about 4 feet deep, with the door at the back of it. Parcels stay dry in there. It was the best bit of the house. And from the pavement, the way the wall comes round, you can't see into it. I'd known that for years, and only ever thought of it as privacy. I'd had the camera up 2 years by then, and I'd turned the notifications off in about the March. Everybody does. There was a flag on next door's fence that summer, and it was buzzing me 40 times a day at a bit of nylon. So I left it recording and stopped listening, which meant it was still doing its job all night, every night. It just wasn't telling anybody. It was writing everything down and waiting to be asked. So, Sunday morning, kettle on, phone open, and the list. And a week of that list is a very boring document. 31 seconds, 28 seconds, 44, me leaving, me coming back, the post, a cat, wind, all of it the same length, because the camera gives you 30 seconds and stops unless something keeps moving. And I was scrolling to the bottom to hit select all, and my eye went past a line that said 6 hours, 11 minutes. I honestly thought it was broken. I thought a spider had got on the lens. So I opened it to see what had jammed it. And the start is nothing. 40 minutes past midnight, my doorway, in that flat, washed-out gray those cameras do. Empty. And then a man walks into it. Not up the path from the gate. From the left, out of the strip of gravel between my wall and the fence, which is not a way to anywhere. And he comes into the alcove and stops and turns round and stands there looking out at the road for a very long time. And then he sits down on the step, back against my door. He didn't crouch. He didn't perch on the edge of anything like a man waiting for a lift. He put himself down on the ground, settled his shoulders back into the door, and got comfortable. The camera's above and off to the side, so it doesn't have much of him. The top of his head, one shoulder, a knee, and that door is a door, 1.5 inches of it. And on the other side is my hall, and 8 feet up my hall is my bedroom door, and I sleep with it open. I sat at my kitchen table and scrubbed forward, and every time I was expecting it to end. 1 o'clock, still there. 1:15, still there. 2, still there. After a while, I started jumping it 10 minutes at a go, and the shape on my doorstep did not change. Same shoulder, same knee. Occasionally a hand comes up and rubs at the back of his neck, the way anybody's does when they've been sat on a step in the cold. He gets up 3 times in the night, 10 to 2, 10 past 3, and about 3:30. And each time it's the same. He stands, he stretches his back out, and walks out of frame to the left, into the gap between my house and the fence. He's gone about 4 minutes and comes back and sits down in exactly the same place. He never touches the door. He never touches the handle. He never once looks at a window. Nothing is tried in 6 hours. And that's the bit people always get wrong. They think he was trying to get in. At 4 minutes past 3, he does the thing I've watched more than all the rest put together. He stands up, and instead of walking off to the left, he takes a step forward and comes up close under the camera. Close enough that the lens can't hold him. Soft and gray and enormous, filling the frame. And the microphone picks up breathing, and he stays there. Not 2 seconds, not a glance up at it, a long, unhurried look at a camera he plainly knew was there. And then he steps back and sits down again, and the frame goes back to a doorstep with a knee in it. And on the other side of the wall, I know exactly what I was doing. It was a Tuesday with nothing wrong with it. I got in about 10. I ate standing up, asleep by 11:30. The only thing I've never got back is the back door. It's a stiff old thing, and in warm weather I leave it on the latch so it isn't sticking every time I go out. And that week was warm. I have gone back through that evening 100 times, hunting for the moment I turn the key. It isn't there. Not because I know I didn't, because it was too ordinary a thing to leave a mark. And the worst of it wasn't any one moment. It was that I already knew what time it stopped. 6 hours and 11 minutes from 20 to 1. That's a sum you can do on your fingers. So I sat in my kitchen with a cold coffee, watching a timestamp climb toward a number I'd already worked out. And the only question in it was, what was going to happen at 10 to 7 that hadn't happened in 6 hours? At 49 minutes past 6, the ground in that alcove changes color. There's a strip of glass above my front door, and a rectangle of light drops onto the step and lies across his leg. The hall light. 11 seconds. That's how long it takes. He doesn't jump and he doesn't run. He puts a hand down and gets up the way you do when you've been sat on the ground half the night, and stands there and looks at the door. And then he walks out to the left, into the gap between my house and the fence, and the recording ends, because there's nothing left in the frame to keep it going. And I know exactly what that light was, and there is nothing to it. I got up at 10 to 7, the way I do, and I put the hall light on, the way you do, and I went to the bathroom. And then I went back to bed for 20 minutes because it was early. I didn't look out of anything. I didn't hear a thing. I have no memory of that morning at all, and I've tried. It's the most ordinary 2 minutes of my entire life. I called it in, and a woman came out that evening and watched 10 minutes of it standing in my kitchen with a mug in her hand. There was nothing on it she could charge because the whole of what he did, in law, is be on a porch. That's trespass, the same as a bloke sheltering from the rain, and there's no way to show what a man sitting down intends. She took a copy and gave me a reference number. She told me honestly that unless he came back, that number was where it stopped. And then she asked me one more thing, whether I had anything from earlier in the month. And I stood in my own kitchen and told her I didn't, because I'd done it before. Back in the spring, when the memory filled up, I'd hit the same button, select all, delete, yes, I'm sure, and I had not opened one of them. I'd looked at a list of lengths and thrown a month in the bin because none of the numbers were interesting. So there is one night I know about, because a recording was long enough to catch my eye on my way to deleting it. And there's a month before that I threw away myself, without looking, and I will never know what was in it, and neither will anybody else. I didn't move. I didn't get a dog. I fixed the back door, and that's the whole of the security in this story. Two things changed, both stupidly small. The first is that every Sunday before I clear the week off, I watch it. Every clip. Dullest 20 minutes of my week, and I wouldn't give it up. And the second is the light. I leave the outside light on over that door every night. A man walked away from my front door because a hall light came on. That's the entire reason I'm telling you about a night and not something worse. It costs about a coffee a month. Best money I've ever spent. And on Sunday mornings, when the card's ready to clear, there's still that moment, my thumb over the button, a whole week of nothing underneath it. I hold it there a second now, every time. Leave your light on, and let's never meet. 3 people, and none of them knew what was actually happening. A man with 1,400 photographs of a good summer, and a stranger at the edge of 3 of them. A woman shown a plastic wallet with 3 sections in it, and hers in the middle. And a man who found out what 6 hours looks like on a doorstep with his thumb already on the button that would have got rid of it. The worst thing that physically happened to any of them is a hinge that swung shut, a handle that moved an inch, and a light that came on. All 3 men are still out there somewhere, unnamed, and all 3 of these houses had the proof in them the whole time. So before you close this, do one boring thing. Scroll back through last summer's photographs and look at the edges, not the middle, the bit that isn't the person you were pointing at. It'll take 10 minutes and it will almost certainly be nothing, which is exactly what all 3 of them thought. Tell me in the comments what you find or what you'd rather not find. Subscribe so the next one is already in your pocket the day you finally look. And if you've got a light over your front door, leave it on tonight. It's the cheapest thing in this entire video.